everyone, today you will hear an interesting story. From early childhood, I had a special attraction to heights. Unlike many other children who were embarrassed to climb trees or slides, I always felt incredible excitement and joy when I was at a height. Height did not cause me fear, but on the contrary, I felt free and full of energy. Just over the years, I realized that this special attraction to heights of mine could be turned into a professional direction. I decided to connect my work with being at the height so that every day I could experience that inexpressible euphoria and confidence that only it gave. I started insulating houses, climbing ladders and heights to ensure the comfort and energy efficiency of the buildings. It was my passion, and I did it with total devotion and skill. Over time, I expanded my range of work, installing equipment on the walls of buildings, repairing facades, installing security systems. All these tasks required my presence at a height. Some considered it dangerous or difficult, but for me it was a calling. Every day when I climbed a ladder or a tower, I felt a storm of emotions. Ritual is such deep exits. A look at the horizon, fresh air and confidence in my actions filled me with energy and inspired me to great achievements. My work at height required not only physical fitness, but also careful planning and the application of safe working methods. I've always been aware of the latest technology and safety requirements at height to ensure safety for both myself and my clients. Every morning when I went to work, I felt blessed to be able to do what I love. Every day at the height was a new challenge, and I was proud of my skill and professionalism. The height has become my second home, and my calling is to serve above, turning the world around into a safe and comfortable place. I was at home in my apartment when I suddenly heard loud screams and smelled smoke. My heart sank with anxiety. Quickly jumping out to the balcony, I found that the apartment below mine was engulfed in flames. I heard a faint voice that begged for help. It was Angelica, my neighbor. She was trapped in the fire. I couldn't stay idle, knowing that every second counted. The flames were spreading at a terrifying speed, and the door to the apartment was already blocked and engulfed in flames. It was clear to me that the salvation of Angelica depended only on me. I immediately returned to the inside of my apartment and grabbed my equipment for working at height. My training and experience at the height gave me the confidence to act even in such a critical situation. My heart was racing, but I knew I couldn't give up. Glancing at the burning room, I decided to enter through the window. It was also in flames, but I knew this was the only way to escape. Stepping outside, I quickly made my way to the window, overcoming dangerous conditions and burrowing into the smoke. I knew that time had run out and that every second mattered. Bursting into the room, I found Angelica unconscious. My heart clenched with terror, but I couldn't let the panic overwhelm me. Carefully, I picked her up and walked through the fiery hell again, heading for the window. Each step was heavy, but strength and determination supported me. Brainily, I climbed out, holding Angelica tightly in my arms. Instantly feeling the fresh air, I heard the sounds of sirens. An ambulance and a fire truck drove up to the place. The doctors rushed to us, and I gave Angelica into their caring hands. I felt relieved knowing she was safe. My knees buckled and I fell to the ground, overwhelmed by emotion and fatigue. The firemen began to extinguish the fire, and I watched as Angelica's apartment turned into a cloud of smoke and ash. I understood that everything material can be restored, but life is unique and valuable. We both survived thanks to determination and our meeting at the most inopportune moment. I was exhausted and worried when I visited Angelica in the hospital. Although she survived, her health was still a cause for concern. I entered the chambers. I saw her lying on the bed. Her face was covered with light bandages, but this did not prevent her from maintaining her genuine beauty. Angelica was lying on the bed in the hospital room, her hair a little tousled and seemed even more shiny against the white sheets. Her face, despite the loose bandages, radiated natural beauty. Angelica's eyes were bright, deep enough to sink into, and filled with hope and warmth. Her gentle features expressed gratitude and peace. Her lips, plump and tender, parted slightly as if they were ready to utter words of gratitude, but instead a gentle smile emanated from them. The damage to her face was minimal, and this allowed her to maintain her gracefulness and naturalness. Angelica was wearing a simple hospital gown that failed to hide her graceful figure. I sat down next to her and took her hand in mine, feeling the tenderness and warmth that radiated from her skin. Our eyes met, and I saw gratitude in her eyes. "Henry, you saved my life," she whispered in a low voice. her eyes filled with gratitude. "And oh no, how I can get back to you for this?" "Angelica, I did what any person would have to do in such a situation," I answered, putting my hand to her warm palm. "I owe you my life. The main thing is that you get well soon. You look beautiful despite everything you've been through," I whispered with a slight tremor in my voice. "Thank you, Henry. Your presence here makes me very happy." Our eyes continued to exchange tenderness and understanding, and at that moment I realized that Angelica is not only physical beauty, but also the beauty of the soul, which was reflected on her face. We sat next to each other, our eyes meeting in silence, but our hearts spoke louder. At that moment, I realized that Angelica is not only the woman whom I saved, but also the woman who saved me from loneliness and hopelessness. At least I would really like to. After Angelica was discharged from the hospital, we continued to communicate closely. Our communication became more intimate and deep. We spent a lot of time together, sharing our joys and sorrows, supporting each other in difficult moments. With each passing day, our bond grew stronger, and we discovered that our affection for each other had become more than just a friendship. We began to realize that our communication had grown into love. That's in her every look, in her every touch. I felt tenderness, care, and support. Less than a year later, we decided to get married. On our wedding day, the sun shone brightly, as if reflecting our inner joy and happiness. During the exchange of vows, our voice trembled with happiness and emotion. We promised to love, respect, and support each other in all life situations. Our eyes filled with love couldn't take our eyes off each other, and we knew we were making the most important decision of our lives. It has been 17 years since we married Angelica. At the beginning of our journey together, we were inseparable and found happiness in the simple moments of life. I fully provided for both of us, developing my business and trying to give her everything that was possible. However, over time, I noticed that Angelica began to change. She began to distance herself from me. While I worked tirelessly, she spent a lot of time alone, often lost in her own thoughts. I tried to draw her attention to our problems, but she either brushed it aside or entered into heated arguments with me. My suspicions only intensified, and at one of those moments, I heard rumors from a friend that Angelica was cheating on me. At first I did not want to believe it, but doubts haunted me. Torn with mixed feelings, I decided to follow her to find out the truth. One day, when Angelica informed me of a late reading club meeting, I decided to use the opportunity to watch her from afar. Leaving the car in a remote parking lot, I diligently hid in the shade of the trees, watching her make her way to her destination. However, my attempt to follow her was abruptly cut short when my phone started ringing. Heightened, I grabbed it from my pocket, but unfortunately, I stumbled and fell into the bushes. At this time, Angelica, not noticing anything, disappeared from my field of vision. I rubbed my eyes and tried to get up, but unsuccessfully caught on a branch that collapsed on me, causing me some scratches and bruises. Disfigured and embarrassed, I felt a mixture of anger and resentment at myself for my clumsiness. I heard footsteps approaching and my heart sank. What if it was Angelica? I nervously got to my feet, anticipating the inevitable confrontation. "Henry, are you here?" Thundered her voice, and I felt relieved. "Angelica, what are you doing here?" I asked, trying to hide my confusion. She looked at me in surprise and replied, "I heard your phone ring and decided to check if everything is in order. But what happened to you?" You looked twisted. I felt embarrassed and confused in front of her. My suspicions were wrong, and instead of accusing her of treason, I found myself in a stupid situation, chasing shadows of doubt, erasing my mistake. I took her hand and tried to explain the situation. "Angelica, I'm sorry. I felt some tension between us and heard rumors, but it was my mistake. I wrongly suspected you, and I'm so sorry." Angelica looked at me with understanding in her eyes and nodded. "Henry, I know we've been spending less time together lately, and I'm sorry you felt this distance. Let's try to fix this and get back our happy fellowship, shall we?" Smiling at her, I hugged Angelica and replied, "Of course, dear. We both made mistakes, but the most important thing is that we have each other. Let's be honest and open to each other so that our communication becomes even stronger." I rethought my attitude towards Angelica. Now he's not going to doubt her loyalty to me. And our life began to come really in order. That's it. On one of the sunny and warm days, I was in a hurry to return home early to make Angelica a pleasant surprise. I did not warn Angelica about my early visit. I stopped by the kiosk to buy a large bouquet of scarlet roses. When I paid for the bouquet, I noticed out of the corner of my eye, as it seemed to me, Angelica. She got into a taxi across the street from me. I called her in surprise, but she did not hear and got into the car. I thought that she would go home and I would meet her directly with a bouquet of roses when she got out of the car. But something went wrong. Angelica was not heading home at all. This began to embarrass me, aroused suspicion, but I decided not to give in to panic and hysteria, but simply continued to follow her. We arrived at a new high-rise building. It looks like the house has just been built. The working equipment had not yet had time to really leave. There were remnants of building materials around. But apparently, some tenants were already in this house, as the windows shone. Angelica got out of the taxi and went to the entrance. I got out of the car and followed her, hoping that there was still some way to explain it. Taking a bunch of flowers with me, Angelica entered the entrance. I followed her a little later. Angelica has already entered the elevator and went to the top, as on the screen above the elevator. I saw that Angelica had gone up to the very top floor. I went outside and walked around the house. There was only one window burning upstairs, and that's how I determined where Angelica was, but from the side. I saw a fire escape that led directly to the roof of the house. I decided to leave the flowers under the house for the time being and began to climb up, taking with me, just in case, some equipment for high-rise which was still in my car. I just bought some new gear and was thinking of taking it to work tomorrow. I climbed up to the roof of the house by this ladder. From the roof, it was not possible to see what was happening in that apartment, but I heard voices because the window was open. I recognized Angelica's voice. "My dear Angelica, at last you have visited my lonely abode again," pleasantly said a male voice. "Yes, Richard, I'm very glad that I was able to escape to you. Husband will be up late tonight, so we can have some fun." "Great. Is that stupid bastard still clueless?" "Phew. Henry? I beg you, what are you talking about?" "He recently tried to follow me, but it was so clumsy that I immediately noticed him. Now he's sure I'm not cheating on him," Angelica replied with a laugh. "If necessary, then I can quickly put this bastard in his place." This man said ominously, "You don't need Henry to know about us. He now fully supports me, and I like it. I want it to continue. You can't do this. Have you forgotten that you are still a consequence due to suspicion of misappropriation of money? Do you want even more problems?" Angelica was worried. "No, baby, yes. These bastards will never prove my involvement in this. I noticed that the bills are marked. They are always with me now. But I will find a way to exchange them safely. And then we'll live happily ever after. Leave your stupid bastard. Now come here. I need to distress. Show daddy what you can do." The bastard called my wife closer to him. I heard Angelica moans, and these bastards started to have sex. I was just furious. Anger enveloped my mind. I just wanted to destroy them so that there would be no trace of them left. I quickly tied a rope to a metal structure on the roof and decided to go down. I quickly measured how much rope I needed to the window, and with a run, grabbed the rope and jumped straight from the roof without unnecessary delay. The rope pulled tight, directing me straight out the window to those bastards. So with great fury, I burst into them. "Damn it, who are you? What do you need here?" Jumped out of bed, frightened Richard. She met this time Angelica naked, huddled up and huddled in a corner, learning with horror that it was me. "Henry, how did you get here?" Angelica asked in confusion. "Decided to surprise you both her." "Well, how was it?" I replied with a very evil smile. "So what were you talking about, you lying bastard? Can you calm me down? Come on, show me what you can." I yelled at Richard in rage. He rushed at me screaming, but my rage was unstoppable. I immediately knocked down this person with a clear blow to the teeth. Shitrow. I sat on top of him and continued to beat him. Angelica ran up to me, but I pushed her away. "You will pay for this," I said, tying him to the rope. "Do you want to fly?" "Henry, please don't do this." Angelica whimpered. Richard got to his feet, staggering. I ran up to him and kicked him in the stomach with all my might. Richard flew screaming out the window. The rope pulled sharply and dragged Angelica after him. Those individuals were hanging a couple of floors below, dangling in the wind. But the ground was still far enough away. "Henry, please stop. Do not do that." Angelica screamed in agony. "You should have thought about this before hurting me," I said, and cut the rope. These individuals fell down with screams and horror. They knew that they were about to hit the ground. But they did not know that in the confusion I had managed, unnoticed, to tie another longer rope. And in the dark on the street, they definitely did not see it. They were not paying attention. Their eyes were fixed on how I cut the rope. The tape not far from the ground. The rope got taut and began to bounce, preventing these individuals from hitting the ground. I found the stolen money and called the police. Then I went downstairs, picked up a bouquet of flowers, and walked over to the individuals hanging on a rope above the ground. Well, did you like it? I strongly do not advise you to cross paths with me in the future, otherwise we will certainly repeat this. Congratulations, our relationship is over, I said. I took out one rose so that the pair number remained and threw a bouquet of flowers right in Angelica's face. Then I left this place. The police found the marked money that Henry stole from his previous job. Now he faced a respectable term. And I quickly divorced Angelica. My connections helped me leave her penniless. So now she could forget about the rich life. I returned to my work. I decided to start life from scratch, throwing out the memories of lives from my life. Dear listeners, your support is very important to us. If you like our story, please like, comment, and subscribe. It's very motivating for us. We need your feedback to improve our content.